Chapter 158, Preparedness Averts Peril. How enviable it is for Miss Justice to always maintain a cheerful mood. I wish I could be like that. Listening to her lively greetings, Klein couldn't help but sigh wistfully. He then recalled the time when she had taken out £1,000 so easily, and he realized that it would be very difficult if he wanted to maintain his cheerful emotions like Miss Justice. The son, Derek Berg, was a young man that cared a lot about his reputation. He immediately replied, "I have obtained the telepathist formula." For the past week, he had been settling the inheritance that his parents had left him. Besides the property, furniture, and a few sentimental items, the rest of the valuable items were brought to the black market in the City of Silver in exchange for the telepathist formula and the barred potion's ingredients. His meals were now rationed. However, he believed that the situation wouldn't be for long. When he passes the combat examination, he would then join the team that cleansed the things of the dark in the outskirts of the city and be paid a decent amount. When I become stronger, I'll apply to become a member of the elite squad, to explore the depths of the dark and find a way to remove the curse. Derek thought with hope as he looked towards the fool who was engulfed in the fog. He noticed that last time, after Miss Justice made a request to Mr. Fool, she was able to produce a page of the unknown Roselle diary out of thin air. Although Derek didn't quite understand what had happened, he felt that it'd be better if he watched Mr. Fool. First, recall the formula in your head. Then, grab the pen by your side and instill it with the strong desire to express your thoughts. Klein casually leaned back in his high chair. As the son was from the City of Silver, which might be the forsaken land of God, the pen that instantiated before him wasn't a fountain pen, but a quill instead. Of course, there still wasn't any ink. Derek didn't dare to doubt what the fool said, so he immediately grabbed the quill that suddenly appeared by his hand. He followed the fool's instruction, and as expected, he saw the telepathist potion formula appear on the brown goatskin parchment before him within seconds. After looking through it twice, Derek silently pushed the promised item towards Miss Justice. Audrey was overjoyed and eager, but she took the parchment gracefully. She glanced at the page, and the words that Klein had translated came into sight. Main ingredients: phantom netherdrake's complete pituitary gland, 10 ml of half-specter rabbit spinal fluid. Supplementary ingredients: main ingredients that I've never heard of. I don't know enough. Audrey, who had been trying to learn more about the different types and names of Beyonder ingredients from Fours and Zeo, seemed to fret in thought. During such moments, she would completely forget how a spectator should behave. Suddenly, Audrey heard a light rapping sound. She quickly looked towards the seat of honor at the long bronze table subconsciously. She was surprised to see Mr. Fool rapping at the edge of the table with his right index finger, while he gestured to her with a nod. What's going on? Audrey was confused as her eyes wore a vacant look. Just when she was about to ask, the corner of her eyes suddenly saw some changes on the telepathist formula. There were remarks next to some of the ingredients. Main ingredients: phantom netherdrake's complete pituitary gland, also known as rainbow salamander. 10 ml of half-specter rabbit, also known as Farsman rabbit, spinal fluid. Supplementary ingredients. I know all of these. Audrey was stunned at first, then there was an intense surge of delight from the bottom of her heart. Thank you, Mr. Fool, you're really very knowledgeable. She looked towards the seat of honor as she thanked and sincerely complimented him. The hanged man Alger didn't know what had happened, but he felt extreme contempt towards what Justice had said. How could you describe a godlike figure with the word knowledgeable? His existence alone is equivalent to knowledge itself to a certain extent. Klein accepted Miss Justice's compliments without any misgivings, because this wasn't something he could have done just because he had chanced upon the psychology alchemist's telepathist formula. After he pulled the son into the tarot club, he had been taking precautions against such problems by taking into consideration the son's special circumstances of being from the City of Silver. He had been constantly studying ancient terminology. Therefore, even if Daxter Guderian hadn't managed to get the formula in time, he could have made the notations easily. Through prior divination and comparison, he had made certain that both telepathist formulas were accurate. This is why we say, preparedness averts peril. Klein thought smugly. Audrey looked at the telepathist formula a few times and then reined in her gaze unwillingly. She then personally expressed Roselle's diary onto a page. You deserve this. She put down her pen and looked towards the fog-engulfed fool. In addition to this, I'll give your blessed another 300. Is 300 pounds okay? She sounded a little guilty because the 3 pages of Roselle's diary only cost her 20 pounds, while the sheriff formula at sequence 8 required 450 pounds. In other words, from the perspective of simple math, she had to pay another 430 pounds on top of the 3 pages of the diary. However, Audrey felt that it was thanks to her luck that the seller didn't know the value of Roselle's diary. It allowed her to buy it at a low price. Emperor Roselle's diary costs at least 50 pounds per page. Audrey held her fist and encouraged herself. 300 pounds. Until today, I've only seen that much money at Sir Dueville's place. Klein sighed and pretended to not be interested in money as he nodded and said, a reasonable deal. This is my blessed information. He avoided speaking of terms like Backland Bank and anonymous account verbally through the fool's mouth as they damaged his image. He made them appear on the parchment before her. Klein had taken time to visit Backland Bank's Tingen branch last Wednesday while investigating the houses with red chimneys. He had disguised himself and opened an anonymous bank account. The account only required one to memorize his account number and the corresponding password in order to withdraw cash from any Backland Bank branch. If one found that it wasn't secure enough, he could also request to add in a signature and thumbprint verification. But that would be more troublesome. In order to keep his identity secret, Klein left it with a password. The password is written in ancient Hermes. The fool that doesn't belong to this era, the mysterious ruler above the gray fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck. As ancient Hermes itself can be used for rituals and prayers, anyone who dares to copy the password would be reciting my name. Then, I'll immediately receive a signal, and can simply find out who's the one trying to steal my wealth from the world above the gray fog. Klein was very satisfied with the idea that he came up with. The only downfall was that it would slightly expose the existence of the fool, but the risk was within an acceptable range. Audrey pushed the diary page to Mr. Fool as she took the parchment with the information of the fool's blessed. Recorded on it was the Backland Bank and a bunch of numbers that formed the anonymous bank account. I wonder if Mr. Fool's blessed is a male or female, and which sequence he or she is. He must be very powerful, at least not weaker than Vice Admiral Hurricane Kalangos. Audrey couldn't stop her thoughts from wandering. But she quickly focused and memorized the anonymous account. It doesn't have to be so troublesome. Just then, she heard the fool's low yet gentle voice. When you get home, recite my name and you'll be able to write down the information directly. This would be just like when I drew the red chimney scene through divination. An account number is very important, you can't memorize it incorrectly. Klein added in his head. That works too. From Mr. Fool's words, he appears very confident. He lives up to his status of a godlike figure if he can even do this. Audrey was stunned at first, before coming to the realization that everything seemed to make logical sense. But why did I have to memorize the formula earlier? Audrey was suddenly confused again. At that moment, Klein pressed down on the page of Roselle's diary, but he wasn't in a hurry to read it. He looked to the side at the sun and calmly asked, "What compensation would you like?" Derek thought seriously and said, "As of now, I don't have anything that I desperately need. I should digest the Bard potion very soon. I shall wait until then to request my compensation. Yes, perhaps to prepare for the corresponding Sequence 8 formula or the necessary ingredients. Sequence 8 is light suppliant, which I have, but the ingredients, even if I had them, I would have no idea how to give them to you. Wait, he used the word digest. Indeed, the city of Silver knows of the acting method. The highest sequence there is only sequence 4, so are they limited by ingredients?" Klein nodded in deep thought, agreeing to the deal. Audrey also sharply noticed the word digest. She weighed her words and asked, "Mr. Sun, are you aware of the acting method?" Derek looked at Miss Justice in confusion and answered straightforwardly, It's nothing strange. The general education classes in the City of Silver teaches the acting method. The acting method is taught in general education classes. Audrey stole a glance at the hanged man and realized that he was looking back at her. The two of them suddenly fell silent. The origin of the sun is indeed mysterious. I wonder where Mr. Fool pulled him into the tarot club from. The more I think about it, the more I revere him. Audrey settled down and looked at the fool, who didn't look visibly surprised in any way. Then Alger probed, "Mr. Sun, do you talk about any key things to look out for with respect to the acting method?" "Yes," Derek nodded without hesitation. "It's clearly stated in our general education classes that the one and only key point for the acting method is to remember that you're only acting. As expected, we're using an ingenious method to go around obstacles and completely break down the remnant spirits in the potion without submitting to it. The Sun, you're such a simple boy. You just shared important information by accident." Klein smiled and cast his eyes on the diary page before him.